It's been a minute since we've done this, but we have a new Unearthed Arcana, and we are delving into the Artificer. Can you tell me about what is new, what has changed, and just remind everybody about what this testing process is?
I am so glad that the first Unearthed Arcana after the new Player's Handbook and the new Dungeon Master's Guide is the Artificer, a class that not only I love working on, but I love playing. And the Unearthed Arcana process is a chance for us to share with the D&D community something we're working on and to get the community's temperature on how do you like what we're working on. It's a snapshot of our work in progress, and we're asking people to weigh in on that snapshot. Because it's a work in progress, for anyone who hasn't been part of Unearthed Arcana before, it means that if the thing we're showing you ends up in a book later, there's a good chance it will have evolved since this snapshot.
Yeah.
And we will then be posting a survey online so that people can let us know what they think about what they read in this new article, and even better, let us know what they have discovered through playtesting material in here. That feedback we then go through very carefully and study it and see how we can then improve what we've shared with everyone. And so what we're sharing now is the Artificer class. Now, people who have Tasha's Cauldron of Everything or Eberron Rising from the Last War have a version of the Artificer.
Right.
The version that we are sharing now is a version that benefits from many of the improvements that we've made in the 2024 Player's Handbook. And this is a chance for us to bring the Artificer in line with the classes that are in that book. A chance for the Artificer to get the same kind of glow up that the Wizard's gotten, the Fighter's gotten, and all of the other classes. And so what we've done is we've gone through the base class, looked for ways that we can improve it, make it more fun, apply lessons we've learned about the class ever since we released it. And then we've also gone through each of the 4 subclasses that appeared in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything and fine-tuned them. In some cases, given brand new features. In other cases, taken a feature that maybe people enjoyed but had kind of a squeaky wheel in it, and so we've applied oil, and we have looked everywhere. How can we make the class even more fun for people? The class's spell list benefits from some of the new spells in the revised Player's Handbook, and we also have some new magic items in the Unearthed Arcana for people to take a look at.
Makes sense. Yeah, it's the Artificer. So, so let's talk about the base class. How has that changed?
So we have made a bunch of fine-tuning and redesign at the base level of the class, starting with the very first feature you get, Magical Tinkering. Before, Magical Tinkering in many ways was a object version of the Prestidigitation spell. Very similar also to what the Rock Gnome does about being able to take a feature of Prestidigitation and essentially apply it to an object.
Yeah.
We felt we could do more for the Artificer, particularly because the Rock Gnome is in the Player's Handbook.
Yeah.
We also now have the Crafter feat in the Player's Handbook. We wanted Magical Tinkering to go beyond essentially just delivering Prestidigitation but in object form, particularly because the class has Prestidigitation on its spell list. And so what we've done is we've replaced the functionality of the previous Magical Tinkering with the ability to, through your tinkering, create actual objects. So this, and you're going to see this as a theme in some of the redesigns here, you're not just sort of giving some magical oomph to an object that already exists. You are creating an object. And this is the way for the Artificer right away at first level to be the person who can essentially reach into their bag of tricks and be like, I've got the rope we need because I just made it. I've got the torch we need because poof, I just fabricated it.
Right.
And we've provided a list of adventuring gear that the Artificer can make. You can do it a certain number of times per day. And this right away gives the Artificer a versatility and a relationship with gear that really, I think, helps bring its identity more fully to life.
Yeah.
We then, at second level, continue this theme of creating stuff, because that's such a big part of the Artificer, by replacing the previous infuse item feature with a feature called simply replicate magic item. Now, the item infusion system that the Artificer used to have was essentially a magic item creation system, but you had to jump through several hoops to get there. You had to first have a non-magical object.
Yeah.
Then you had to know an infusion that could affect that kind of object. Then you had to use that infusion on that object to either turn it into a magic item-like item, or if the infusion you learned was the replicate magic item infusion, you were creating a magic item from a limited list of magic items. We've scrapped all that.
Yeah.
Now, you are simply making magic items. You know a certain number of magic item plans now, and the list of plans that you can choose from starts small at level 2. It's a preset list of items along with every common magic item in the game. But as you level up, the list of items that you can select plans from gets larger and larger and larger. And rather than being a set of fixed item lists as before, you now start gaining access to whole categories of magic items, and then you are able to create different rarities of those items as you level up, peaking at level 14, where you start being able to create rare magic items in several different categories. This means now that the Artificer is the magic item crafter par excellence. No one else in the game will match them in this. They had a bit of this before, but now it's just essentially we cut out the middleman where you were kind of having to, do this little mini game of I've got the mundane object, then I put the infusion in it, then it becomes you're just making magic items now.
Right.
And so this is a really exciting evolution for the class. It also means that the class can now evolve with the game. One of the things we wanted to solve in this revision of the Artificer was later on when we come out with books with new magic items, we want artificers to have access to that material.
Right.
And so this redesign of their magic item replication abilities not only lets them make more different types of items, but also means this ability now grows with the game.
And there is no limitation based off whether you know that spell. Just because that magical item can replicate that spell doesn't mean that you need to know that spell yourself.
No, you pick certain plans.
Yeah.
And then the items you make are based on the plans you know.
Perfect.
Now also, going back to first level, we've made a tweak in spellcasting that will also help the Artificer's versatility. And the Artificer is all about versatility. And that is, we've made it so that the Artificer, like the Wizard, can change one of their cantrips every time they finish a long rest. This means our 2 intelligence-based spellcasters are the ones who have the easiest time changing their cantrips. And again, part of this is that both of these classes, so much of their identity is about having the right tool for the job. And, of course, the Artificer has a feature called the right tool for the job. And that, too, has changed, where because we now have magical tinkering at level 1, letting you just create objects, right tool for the job now gets to build on that feature by adding artisans tools to the list of items that you can create from the equipment chapter. And so between magical tinkering and replicate magic item, as you level up, you have this growing list of things that you can make.
Right.
So if you want to play a character who is all about making stuff, the Artificer was already good at that, but now the Artificer is even better at that, whether the items you're making are non-magical or magical. At level 6,
Right.
we've replaced the tool expertise feature that used to be there with a new feature called Magic Item Tinker. And this allows you to take one of those magic items that you created with Replicate Magic Item and essentially disintegrate it into a spell slot.
Yeah.
So if you ever find as an artificer you've made more stuff than you need, you have the ability to instantly recycle one of the items you created to get the magical energy in it and turn that into a spell slot. And that's something that you can do once per day.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Also, we have altered Flash of Genius, which is the Artificer's ability to quickly aid somebody who is making an ability check or a saving throw. And before, you had to decide that you were using this ability when the person said, I'm going to make this roll. Now, it's a subtle change, but an important one. Flash of Genius is in response to an ability check or saving throw failing. And so you now don't have to guess if the time is right for you to use it. And this is the kind of refinement that we did for a number of the classes in the new Player's Handbook. And so now we get to see the Artificer benefiting from tuning up in this way. And again, that will make it far easier for artificers to know when is an optimal time to use one of their limited uses of Flash of Genius.
So you're not wasting it ever.
We have also, in the base class, improved the spell storing item, which before could store a level 1 or level 2 spell. Now it also has the ability to store a level 3 spell. So you'll be able to essentially juice that item up even more than you could before. We've also, at level 19, we've put in the Epic Boon, because all classes now get an Epic Boon at level 19. And then the 20th level feature, Soul of Artifice, has been improved in a variety of ways. This feature always had, on one hand, the ability to improve your saving throws if you were attuned to a certain number of items, and then it'll also allow you to cheat death.
Right.
Now, the death cheating ability before required you to use your reaction to use it, which can be pretty tricky because you never know in D&D or in life when death is coming. And sometimes you could have been in a situation where you already used your reaction on a particular round, making it impossible for you to use this ability. So first, you no longer have to burn a reaction to use this ability. And when you do use it, rather than being restored to 1 hit point, you're now restored to 20.
Oh, wow.
And this is to help ensure you don't immediately drop a moment after coming back. Which again is also a change that we've made in a number of the classes in the Player's Handbook, because we saw over the last decade that some of our death-defying abilities gave you only a moment of defiance, and then because you were just standing there with 1 HP, then a monster could lightly blow on you and you would fall over. So we've made it that you have a chance to actually hold your ground for a bit longer. We've also replaced the saving throw bonus with instead a bonus to your ability checks. It no longer requires you to sort of chase having multiple items that you're attuned to, because many of the items you can create with the magic item replication don't require attunement. And so now what we've done is, as long as you have at least 1 item that you're attuned to, you get to add a d6 to every ability check that you make. And this represents the magic of your items helping guide your work as an artificer. And this is also nice because it means you have something active that you can enjoy with this feature. Before, both halves of the feature were reactive. Saving throws are triggered by usually monsters or traps. And then the other feature was defying death. So we made it so that you still have that death-defying ability, but now the other half gets to boost your ability check. So you get to feel like, when you're making something or when you're trying to figure something out or search for something, you get to feel like your magic items are powering you up.
Perfect.
So again, that's a lot there in the core class.
Yeah.
Some of the highlights are you're making real objects now.
Yeah.
You're making non-magical ones, and you're making you can make a much wider array of magic items than you ever could before.
Yeah, that's impressive. I mean, the only limitation here is like cursed items, and what else?
So cursed items, and then the items that you can make is gated by rarity and item category.
Yeah.
And so as you hit certain levels, the class lets you know, all right, now you can make items of this certain rarity in this particular category.
Gotcha.
But yes, no, you can't make cursed items with replicate magic item. You can still make them using the magic item crafting rules in the Dungeon Master's Guide,
right?
But not with your quick creation ability in this class.
You and I both have a soft spot for artificers.
Oh yes,
I spent a long time as an armorer, and I've loved that.
And when I get to play a character in live play shows, usually the character I'm playing is Vi, the Artificer. In fact, just last week at PAX Unplugged, I got to play Vi in an episode of Desi Quest, which was a ton of fun.
Oh, that's awesome.
And Vi is an Artillerist.
Yeah.
And I like all 4 of the Artificer subclasses, but because I keep playing Vi, I have a soft spot for the Artillerist, the Artificer who loves to blow shit up.
Yeah. And I got a chance to play my character Avern as an armorer for about a year, and just getting the crap kicked out of you as a tank was so fun. Because you have such durability, but you are often like it's such a fantastic tank in D&D. I love that subclass. So speaking of subclasses, we should probably talk about those. First off, we've got the Alchemist, correct?
Yes. So the Alchemist's set of spells that they always have prepared has gotten tweaked. Blight has been swapped out for Vitriolic Sphere, one of the spells now in the new Player's Handbook. And also the base class's spell list has gotten some additions from the new Player's Handbook, including Arcane Vigor, Dragon's Breath, the new True Strike, Elementalism, and also Circle of Power. So the Artificer base class has some new spellcasting options.
Yeah.
And then the Alchemist now gets Vitriolic Sphere, because the Alchemist is all about blasting acid and other either harmful or helpful concoctions. We've also made it so that the Alchemist can now craft potions faster using the crafting rules in the Dungeon Master's Guide. And we have overhauled the Alchemist's signature ability, Experimental Elixir. So first off, Experimental Elixir now allows you to create 2 of the elixirs for free rather than just 1. And we've also altered the table that you roll on so that the highest result on the table, if you roll it, you now get to choose what the experimental elixir is.
Right.
You also still now have the option of spending spell slots to make experimental elixirs. And those experimental elixirs, you can choose what their effect is from the experimental elixir table.
Right.
Also in that table, the healing option has been beefed up, just as healing spells in the new Player's Handbook have gotten better. The healing option here has gotten better as well. So the Alchemist is able to keep pace now with the improved healing in the Player's Handbook.
And there's a significant change to the action economy.
Well, yes, because now people can drink your experimental elixirs as a bonus action.
Right.
And so that makes all of these better, because now no one is spending their whole turn drinking one of these to get flight or healing or to get that bonus to their rolls and what have you. So now you can quickly drink yourself or someone that you've given the elixir to. You can quickly drink it, get its effect, and keep going with your turn.
Yeah.
And so that's huge.
Yeah.
So you not only are able to make more of these and have more of a chance of controlling what the effects are, but it's again easier for people to fold these effects into their turns, which I think is going to really make the whole subclass feel more fluid, pun intended.
Oh man.
Now, we've also made it so that at 9th level in the subclass, when you get to the point where you get restorative reagents, the temporary hit points offered by that feature are now greater than they were before. This is again connected to this design theme throughout the game where restorative abilities have gotten better so they can better keep pace with the amount of damage that creatures are dealing in the game. We've also made it so that in Chemical Mastery, which is the capstone ability, you now have a new damage boost. So this is going to help alchemists dish out more hurt at high level that they didn't have before. And Chemical Mastery now lets alchemists cast Tasha's Bubbling Cauldron, which is a new spell in the revised Player's Handbook. And we needed to put it here rather than putting it on the spell list because it's a 6th level spell, which artificers don't normally have access to.
Right.
So that means the alchemist gets to cheat a little bit and gain access to a 6th level spell, which is usually beyond the reach of this class,
Right.
but not for the alchemist. And because we felt if anyone should be able to quickly dish out potions, it's this subclass. And so with the addition of this spell to the class, that's going to be a really nice addition to the toolkit.
That brings us to the armor, which I've already talked about at length. That is one of my absolute favorites. Definitely provides that multiple fantasies, really. Whether you are really into mechs or Iron Man or just fine-tuning your armor, this is just kind of like fantasy wish fulfillment stuff.
And we couldn't resist. We added a whole new type of armor
I saw that.
for the armorer.
Yeah.
So this subclass got a ton of love just because it was so fun to add it. The subclass used to have 2 options where you would choose between playing either the Guardian or the Infiltrator. Well, now we've added a 3rd option, the Dreadnought.
Yeah.
And the Dreadnought gets to become large and at higher level huge and swings around a huge ball and chain to smash creatures. And so again, if you've ever had this fantasy of essentially getting in a mech and stomping around, or being Sigourney Weaver in that lift at the end of Aliens, the Dreadnought is for you.
Yeah.
And the Guardian and the Infiltrator are just as juicy as they were before, but now you have a 3rd option to consider as an armorer when you're deciding which of these options is going to be the most appropriate for a given adventure.
Yeah, I love how much you can do with armor now, because now you can have like your offensive mode eventually and your defensive mode and stealth mode. Like you have kind of all these different armor sets that you could don.
Absolutely. And we've also made it at higher level that the Thunder Gauntlets and the Lightning launchers of the Infiltrator and the Guardian, they have been improved. So people who already love the Armorer, fear not. The options that were already there have also gotten a glow up in addition to the Dreadnought crashing into the subclass. And then we've also replaced the level 9 ability in the subclass. It's now called Armor Replication. And going back to the theme in the base class of just creating items, you simply now you have an additional magic item you can create each day using your replicate magic item feature, but it must be a suit of armor. And so again, it's just and again, it's not a kind of like a magic item or it is a full-fledged magic item.
So that's fantastic. It's great having all those different armor sets, and then we still have the extra attack that we can do.
That's right. Shall we talk about the subclass of big booms, the Artillerist?
The big booms. Yeah.
So in the Artillerist, just as the Alchemist, their base feature got an overhaul.
Right.
The base feature of the Artillerist, the Eldritch Cannon, got an overhaul. Part of that is just ease of use. We've changed how the Eldritch Cannon is formatted, so it's going to look to people a bit more like the siege engines in the Dungeon Master's Guide. Mm-hmm. So for any of us who play an Artillerist, as I do, it's going to be easier to look down and just see what the heck can my Eldritch Cannon do.
Yeah.
That's just on the surface. The most exciting change that we've made to the Eldritch Cannon is now, instead of having to decide when you create the Eldritch Cannon, whether it has a flamethrower, a force ballista, or the protection field, you now, every time you activate the cannon, get to choose which of those three things it does.
Yeah.
So now every Eldritch Cannon can do all three, and it's just every activation you're choosing which one. We made this change because before, it was really easy sometimes to not be quite sure how an encounter is going to play out, and then just repeatedly default to the force ballista.
Yeah.
Because you pretty much know being able to make a potent ranged attack will be useful in just about every fight. But we know there are some situations where the flamethrower and the protector are really juicy options. And so rather than having those two just sort of forever be on the back bench, they're now, all three options are in circulation, and you just decide in the moment which of these cool options is the cannon going to use. So that's really big. The other great thing about the Eldritch Cannon now is you no longer need to use your action to detonate it if you want to explode it.
Yeah.
Instead, when it drops to 0, you can use your reaction to blow it up. Again, this means you're not spending your turn having to explode it, and the explosion's damage has been increased. So if you decide that it's positioned in the right place to detonate it, and it isn't going to hurt your friends, or maybe you don't care, it's now going to do more damage when it explodes.
Right, perfect.
Now, in the Battlesmith, here, this subclass was so solid that mostly what people are going to see are refinements in how the Steel Defender, its stat block is built, and how it functions on your turn. The Steel Defender, people will recognize it functions similarly to the Beastmaster's pets in the new Player's Handbook. And so this subclass has been tuned up so that the Battlesmith's pal is going to be able to hold its own next to those other companions that are available now in the new Player's Handbook. Speaking of companions, we also have a brand new spell for Artificers, and that is the Homunculus Servant.
Okay.
The Homunculus Servant used to be a magic item infusion option for the Artificer, and because the infusion system got completely redesigned, we didn't want Artificers to lose the ability to have a Homunculus Servant. So what we've done is we've turned it into a spell available to all Artificers. It can be cast as a ritual. So if you want to have a Homunculus Servant, which is basically the Artificer's equivalent of a familiar, you can do that. You're not going to have to spend a spell slot on it. And the Homunculus Servant stat block has been redesigned so that this spell now feels like a nice companion to the new summoning spells in the revised Player's Handbook. We also, on that theme of not wanting Artificers to lose all of those infusions that used to be in the class that weren't actual magic items, we've taken the best of those and included them in this Unearthed Arcana as new magic items that can be created using the new Replicate Magic Item feature. That includes items like the Boots of the Winding Path, those fun boots where you can teleport to a place that you were at earlier on that turn. the Helm of Awareness, the Mind Sharpener, and several others. What's awesome about these now being actual magic items is not only can the Artificer continue to make them using their Replicate Magic Item feature, but that means these items are also now available for DMs to give as treasure in their adventures. And so it's a win-win here, where not only Artificers get to still access these really cool items as they're tinkering and making magic objects, but now other characters might get to see these in campaigns where there isn't even an Artificer in the campaign. And so if people have, been in a campaign and have really wanted the spell refueling ring, which just gives you a spell slot back, well, even if there's no Artificer, there's now a chance if all this makes it into the official game, that the DM can make these items available to you.
And that's about it, right?
Yes.
So,
it's
quite a lot.
It is 14 pages of Artificer goodness, 4 subclasses, completely revised base class, new magic items, and a new spell. And I look forward to seeing what people think.
Yeah, and again, it's really important that you playtest this material, you send feedback back to us. The best way to be doing that is on D&D Beyond. Fill out that survey. We'll look over that information and tweak from there. But that's a huge, important part of the UA process is your feedback. So don't forget to do that. What is it that you like about Artificer? So what is the dream that kind of fulfills for everybody?
For me, it's all about inventiveness and making things. And as a person whose career it is to make things, the Artificer really sort of taps into something that I love. And there is also a fun, sort of zany inventor quality to the Artificer that I also like. So there can be a whimsy there as well.